YouTube, I'm sending some good vibrations to whoever is watching this. In this video, I'm going to talk of mental gender. So, students of psychology who have followed the modern trend of thought along the lines of mental phenomena are struck by the persistence of the dual mind idea, which has manifested itself so strongly during the past 10 or 15 years, and which has even rise to the number of possible theories regarding the nature and constitution of these two minds. So, the late Thomas and J. Anderson attained great popularity in 1893 by advancing his well-known theory of the objective and subjective mind, which is held existed in every individual. Other writers have attracted almost equal attractions by the theories regarding the conscious and subconscious mind, the voluntary and involuntary mind, the active and passive mind. The theories of various writers differ from each other, but there remains the underlying principle of the duality of mind. So, the student of the Hermetic philosophy is tempted to smile when he reads and hears of these many new theories regarding the duality of mind, each school on its own, and each claiming to have discovered the truth. The student turns back the pages of the occult history, and way back in the dim beginnings of occult teachings, he finds reference to the ancient Hermetic document of the principle of gender on the mental plane. So now, the manifestation of the mental gender, and examine further, he finds that the ancient philosophy consists of the phenomenon of the dual mind and counted for the theory of mental gender. This idea of mental gender may be explained in a few words to students who are familiar with the modern theories just announced too. The masculine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called objective mind, conscious mind, voluntary mind, active mind, and the feminine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called subjective mind, subconscious mind, involuntary mind, passive mind. Of course, the Hermetic teachings do not agree with the many modern theories regarding nature of two phases of mind, nor does it admit of the facts claimed for the two perspective aspects. So, some of them said theories and claims being very far-fetched and incapable of standing to test, experiment, and demonstration. We point to the phase of agreement merely for the purpose of helping the student to assessment his previously acquired knowledge with the teachings of the Hermetic philosophy. Students of Anson will notice the statement at the beginning of this second chapter of the law of physics phenomena that the mystic jargon of the Hermetic philosopher discloses the same general idea. The same general idea, the duality of mind. If Dr. Anson had taken the time to tremble to differ a little of the mystic jargon of the Hermetic philosophy, he might have received much light upon the subject of the dual mind. But then perhaps his most interesting work might not have been written, Let us now consider the Hermetic teachings regarding mental gender. The Hermetic teachers impart their instructions regarding this subject by bidding their students examine the report of their consciousness regarding their self. The students are bidden to turn their attention inward upon the self dwelling within each. Each student is led to see the consciousness he gives him first to report the existence of his self. The report is I am. This at first seems to be the final word from the consciousness, but a little further examination discloses the fact that this I am may be separated or split into two distinct parts or aspects which will work in union, yet nevertheless may be separated in consciousness. So, while at first there seems to be only an I existing, a more careful and closer examination reveals the fact that there exists an I and a me. These mental twins differ in the characters of nature, and the examination of their nature and the phenomena arising from the same will throw much light upon many of the problems of the mental influence. So now, let us begin with the constellation of the me, which is usually mistaken for the I by the student until he presses the inquiry a little further back into the restlessness of consciousness. A man thinks of his self in its aspect of me as being opposite certain of feelings, dislikes, habits, ties, characteristics of all which go to make the personality of the self known to himself and others. So, he knows that these emotions and feelings change, are born and die away, are the subject of the principle of rhythm and the principle of polarity, which take him from one extreme of feeling to another. He also thinks of the me as being certain knowledge gathered together in his mind, and thus forming a part of himself. This is the me of a man. But we have proceeded to the essayist, the me of many men may said to consist largely of their consciousness of the body and their physical appetites. Their conscious being largely bounded up with their bodily nature. Their practice life there. Some men even go so far as to regard their personal appeal as a part of their me, and actually seem to consider it a part of themselves. A writer has said that man consists of three parts: soul, body, and clothes. The clothes conscious people would lose their personality if divested of their clothing by savages upon the occasion of the speakwork. But even many who are not so closely bound up with the idea of personal remains stick closely to the consciousness of their body being their me. They cannot conceive of a self independent of the body. Their mind seems to be practically a something belong to their body. which is many cases is indeed. But as man rises in the scale of consciousness, he is able to distinguish his me from his idea of body, and he is able to think of his body as a belonging to the mental part of him. But even then, he is very deep to identify the me entirely with the mental states, feelings, which he feels to exist within him. So, he is very deep to consider these internal states as identical with himself, instead of there being simply things produced by some part of his mentality and existing within him, of him and him in, but still not himself. He sees that he may change these internal states of feeling by an effort of will, and that he may produce a feeling or state of an exactly opposite nature in the same way, and yet the same me exists. And so after the all, he is able to set aside these various mental states, emotion, habits, qualities, characters, and other personal mental belongings. So now he is able to set them aside in the note of me. Correction of the consciousness are embraced, as well as variable positions. This requires much mental construction and power of mental analysis on the part of the student. But still the task is possible for the advanced student, and even those not so far advanced are able to see in the imagination of how the process may be performed. After this raise aside processes has been performed, the student will find himself in conscious position of a self, which may be considered in fact in its I and me dual aspects. The me will be felt to be a something mental, in which thought, ideas, emotion, feelings, and other mental states may be produced. It may be considered as the mental womb, as the ancient styled it, capable, capable of generating mental offspring. It reports to be the consciousness as a me with latent power of creation and generation of mental and all of sorts of kinds. So its power of creative energy are felt to be enormous, but still it seems to be conscious that it must receive some form of energy from either its I companion or else from some other. It is able to bring into being its mental creation. This consciousness brings with its it a neutralization of enormous capacity of mental work and creativity ability. So now, within this within his inner consciousness, he finds that there exists a mental something which is able to will that the me act along a certain creative line, and which is also able to stand aside and witness the mental creation. This part of himself is thought to be called the I. He is able to reset in its conscious at will. He finds there not a consciousness of an ability to generate activity, creativation, in the sense of the ideal process attained upon mental operations, but rather sense and consciousness of an ability to project an energy from the I to the me, a process while willing that the mental creation began and processed. He is also found that he also finds that the I is able to stand aside and witness the operation of the me's mental creation and generation. There is there is this dual aspect in the mind of every person. The I represents the masculine principle of mental gender, and the me represents the feminine principle. So the I represents the aspect of being, the me the aspect of becoming. You will notice that the principle of correspondence operates on the plane, just as it does upon the great plane upon which the creation of universes is performed. The two are similar in kind, although they are different in degree. As above, so below. As below, so above. These aspects of the mind, the masculine and feminine principle, the I and the me, considered in the connection with the well-known mental and physical phenomena, give the master key of these dimly known regions of mental operation and manifestation. So, the principle of gender gives the truth underlying the whole field of phenomena of mental influence. Hmm? The, the, the tendency of the feminine principle is always in the direction of receiving impressions, while the tendency of the masculine principle is always in the direction of giving out or expressing. The feminine principle has a much more varied field of operation than has the feminine principle or masculine principle. The feminine concept idea including the work of the imagination. The masculine principle consists itself with the work of the will in its varied phases, and yet without the active aid of the will of the masculine principle. The feminine principle is at rest consists with generating mental images which are the result of impressions received from outside instead of producing original mental creation. So now, persons who can give continued attention and thought to a subject actively employ both of the mental principle, the feminine in the work of active mental generation, and the masculine will in the simulating and energizing the creative operation of the mind, percussion of the mind. The majority of persons really employ the masculine principle but little and are consistent to live according to the thoughts and idea instilled into the me from the I of other minds. But it is not our purpose to dwell upon this phase of the subject, which may be studied from any other textbook upon psychology, with the key that we have given you regarding mental gender. The student of physics phenomena is aware of the wonderful phenomena classified under the head of telepathy, thought, transference, mental influence, suggestion, and many more. Many have sought for an explanation of these various phases of phenomena under the theories of the various dual mind, and in a measure they are right, for there is clearly a manifestation of two distinct phases of mental activity, but if such students will consider these dual minds in the light of the Hermetic teachings regarding vibration and mental gender, they will see that the long sought for the key is at hand. So now, in the phenomena of telepathy, it is seen how the vibe, the vibe, the vibe, the vibe, the vibratory energy of the masculine principle is projected towards the feminine principle of another person, and later takes the seed thought and allows it to drop into humanity. In the same way suggestion operates, the masculine principle of a person giving the suggestion directs a stream of vibratory energy or willpower towards the feminine principle of the other people, and the later accepting it makes it its own and acts and thinks accordingly. An idea that's a lodge in the mind of another person grows and develops, hmm, and in times is regarded as right for mental offspring of the individual, whereas it is in reality like the charcoal egg placed in the spiral nest, where it destroys the rightful offspring and makes itself at home. The normal method is for the masculine and feminine principle in a person's mind to coordinate and act harmoniously with each other. But unfortunately, the masculine principle in the average person is too lazy to act. The display of will is too slight, and the consequences is that such persons are ruled almost entirely by the minds of and wills of other people, whom they allow to do their thinking and willing for them. How few original thoughts or original actions are performed by the average person are not the majority of persons mere shadows of eons of other having stronger wills over mind of others. So the terrible is that the average person dwells almost together in his me consciousness and does not realize that he has such a thing as consciousness, and does not realize that he has such a thing as an I. He is polarized in the feminine principle of mind and the masculine principle, in which is lodged the will is allowed to remain inactive and not employed. Hmm? So the strong men and women of the world invest and manifest the masculine principle of will, and their strength depends upon his fate. Hmm? So instead of living upon the impressions made upon their minds by others, they dominate their own minds by their will, obtaining the kind of mental images desired, and moreover dominate the mind of others likewise in the same manner. So look at the strong people, how they manage to implant their seed thought in the mind of the masses of the people, thus causing the latter to think thoughts in accordance with the desires and wills of the strong individuals. This is why the masses of people are such sheep-like creatures, never originating an idea of their own, nor using their own powers of mental activity. So the manifestation of mental gender may be noticed all around us in everyday life. The magnetic person or are those who are able to use the masculine principle in the way of impressing their ideas upon others. The actor who makes people weep or cry as he wills is employing this principle, And so he so is the successful man, statesman, preacher, writer, and other people who are before the public attention. The influence accepted by the people over others is due to the manifestation of mental gender along the vibrational lines above indicated. In this principle lies the secret of personal magnetism, personal influence, fatuation, as well as phenomena generally grouped under the same groups. So, the student who has familiarized himself from the phenomena generally spoken as of the physic will have discovered the important part played in the said phenomena by the force which science has styled suggestions, by which terms is meant the processes or methods whereby an idea is transferred to or impressed upon the mind of another, causing the second mind to act in accordance with accordance with therewith. So, a correct understanding of suggestion is necessary in order to intelligently comprehend the physical phenomena with suggestion underlines. But still, more is a knowledge of vibration and mental gender necessary for the student of suggestion. For the whole principle of suggestion depends upon the principle of mental gender and vibration. So now, it is customary for the writers and teachers of suggestion to explain that it is the objective or voluntary mind which makes the mental impression or suggestion upon the subject or involuntary mind. So now, but they do not describe the processes or give us any analog in nature whereby we may more readily comprehend the idea. But if you will think of the matter in the light of the Hermetic teachings, you will able to see that the energizing of the feminine principle by the vibratory energy of the masculine principle is in accordance to the universal laws of nature, and that the natural world affords a countless analogues whereby the principle may be understood in facts. So now, the Hermetic teachings show that the very creation of the universe follows the same law, and that in all creative manifestation upon the planes of spiritual and mental and the physical, there is always in operation this principle of gender. This manifestation of the masculine and feminine principle, as above, so below, as below, so above, and more than this, when the principle of mental gender is once grasped and understood, the varied phenomena of psychology at once becomes capable of intelligent classification and understand. Instead of being very witch match in the dark, the principle works out in practice because it is based upon the universe laws of life. So now, we shall not enter into an extended discussion of or description of the varied phenomena of the mental influence or physical activity. There are many books, many of them quite good, which have been written and published on the subject of late years. The main facts stated in various books are correct, although the several writers have attempted to explain the phenomena by various pet theories of their own. The student may himself, with the other matters, use good impressions by using the theory of mental gender. He will able to bring order out of the chaos of conflicting theories and teachings, and may moreover readily make himself a master of the subject if he be so inclined. The purpose of this work is not to give an extended account of physics phenomena, but rather to give to the student a master key whereby he may unlock the many doors leading into the parts of the temple of knowledge which he may wish to explore. So now, so now, I feel that in this constellation of teachings in the caravan, we come at the end. It's been a wonderful journey reading the book with you guys. It's been a wonderful journey. So, one may find an explanation which will serve to clear away many perplexing defaults, a key that will unlock many doors. What is the use of going into detail regarding all the many features of physics phenomena and mental science, provided we place in the hands of the student the means whereby he may fully regard any phase of the subject which may interest him. With the aid and knowledge, one may go through any occult library, the odd light from the Egypt illuminating any occult library, the odd and observer subjects. That is the purpose of understanding knowledge. So do not come I do not come expounding a new philosophy on people, but rather furnishing the outlines of the great world old teachings which will make clear the teachings of others, which will serve as a great reconciler of differing theories and opposing sequence. So I wanna send out some good vibrations to whoever is watching this. I wanna say thanks for being with me. Thanks for being with me in this journey. Now the book ends here. The mental gender was the last page we had to talk about, so we move on a second, or we move on other things. Thanks for watching. That's all I wanted to talk about in this video, but thanks for being with me all this time and sharing that divine moment with me. Nature be with you. I love every single one of you. I don't know you, you don't know me, but nature be with you. Thanks for watching.